Wow.
The first tall boy was released at 8:41. It scored a direct hit.
Wow.
The next
Crazy.
five recorded another direct hit, 3 near misses, and a stray.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be checking out Operation Catechism, how the Allies sank the unsinkable battleship, the Tirpitz. Yes guys, this is uploaded by Timeline of course, and I have been getting quite a few recommendations to check this one out recently over on the greatest commando raid of all time reaction. We did a reaction to that, to the raid on Port Nazaire in France. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. That was a super sick raid, many Victoria Crosses of course awarded. Very sketchy raid. Again, the circumstances of that, basically what they had to do, don't really want to spoil it too much of course, but absolutely insane what they were able to accomplish. Many of them unfortunately taken captive and or killed, many of the commandos of course taking place in that raid, but they were able to accomplish their mission at the end of the day. And as insane as it was, the whole purpose of that raid was to blow up the dry dock, and specifically for housing the Tirpitz here. Now, not specifically for housing the Tirpitz, it was designed originally in France for housing ocean liners and whatnot, but it was one of the few dry docks at the time, I suppose, that could actually house a battleship of this size that the Germans had made, right? I don't actually know the circumstances of the sinking of the Tirpitz. We're obviously gonna have to find out here today, but I think this is gonna be a good one. Timeline making fantastic documentaries out here. I'm not sure the state you guys are gonna see this in with the editing I'll have to do to get around, of course, copyright and whatnot, but without any further delay guys, I'm excited to check this one out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the reactions. I'm excited to learn some more about it. I really enjoyed the way Timeline did it last time. I don't believe Clarkson is in this documentary this time, but either way, I'm excited to check it out. If you guys enjoyed the reaction, hit that like button, subscribe for more content from me, leave your recommendations down in the comments below. As always, big thank you to all of our members. Join the Discord if you're not in it. And without any further delay, let's get right into Operation Catechism. Operation Catechism, how the Allies sank the unsinkable battleship, the Tirpitz. Can't say the word, guys. Can't say the word. You know it. I think I just had a stroke there. Holy shit.
On the night of November the 12th, 1944, 200 young airmen set off on one of the most daring raids of the Second World War.
There's the target. Go and do it. At the time, we just got on and did it. That was our job.
Wow.
70 years ago, their target was lurking in a Norwegian fjord deep inside the Arctic Circle. The Allies had already attacked it on 33 separate occasions.
Jesus.
We were beginning to think that it really was unsinkable.
They told us on board, this is the strongest ship of the world and never can sink.
The target was the battleship Tirpitz. Hitler called it the pride of the German Navy. Churchill named it the Beast. And he was willing to risk the RAF's finest units, 9 Squadron and the Dam Busters, to sink it.
It never
Wow.
occurred to us that we were in danger. The chap either side of us may have been, but we weren't.
I feel like that's just a consistent thing with a lot of these fellas who are doing it, right? Like they didn't conceive of the danger while you're doing it, of course, when you're a young guy, right? And it's just crazy to think again, like these fellows, what they were able to do back in their day, you know, and the sacrifice they had to make and how brave you had to be, right? Like you're literally like you're dive bombing or trying to torpedo bomb a fucking battleship, dude. Like I don't think most people, you can't wrap your mind around how just insane that is, right? But again, these guys brave enough to do it. Now I think I've heard of a couple different cases, of course, of German ships being sunk, and most consistently of the time it was done, of course, with I'm sorry, Allied air power, of course. Not strictly speaking, but most of the time it was mostly done with just overwhelming air power. Again, the Germans, when they were trying to project into like the North Sea regions and stuff like that, their air power was pretty squiffy at times, right? They didn't really have many air bases up there, of course. Britain is right there. And of course, their surface fleet in terms of escorts and whatnot wasn't the best, of course. British fleet was, of course, spread thin, but overall, you got your home island right there. Air power was the carrier, and air power even back in World War II, as we saw with like carrier operations and whatnot, those won the day, right? Battleships, even by World War II, they were seen as modern, these will win, but nah, really it was carrier operations are what won the day when it came to that era of warfare.
We were in danger. The chap either side of us may have been, but we weren't.
That day, the dambusters should have been shot out of the sky. We uncover new evidence to help explain one of the luckiest escapes of the war.
Really?
And perhaps for the final time, key participants in one of the most audacious raids of World War II tell their story.
We said to ourselves, well, we've sunk the beast at last.
Must be an amazing feel, like, to see that go down, or even to hear of it, that it went down, man. Wow. Are these, is this, I imagine, like, I don't know where exactly, again, it went down, in a ford somewhere, so that just assumes that it was probably docked up somewhere, or at least pulled up somewhere. So if it went down in shallow water, I don't know if this is an actual piece of the ship, but I imagine, like, the wreck is still obviously exists, and stuff probably washes up all the time still to this day. And again, just crazy again what these young guys were able to accomplish, or these old fellas now. And this was 9 years ago. I'm not sure how many of them are still with us, but it just blows my mind, man.
70 years after the sinking of the battleship Tirpitz, historian Patrick Bishop is exploring the Norwegian fjord that was its final resting place.
It looks like, I don't know, maybe one of the ship's plates. You can see some riveting here. So there's still little scattered sort of mementos of Tirpitz lying around here today after all this time.
Wow.
Patrick has come to Norway to find out how the RAF's 9 Squadron and
That's insane to me.
Squadron, the Dambusters, finally managed to sink the unsinkable battleship.
This day is always commemorated.
Like, just to think, like, that piece of steel that you were, I'm sorry, but just to think that that piece of steel you were holding, that was at one point a massive top of the line battleship of an era long past, right? And it's just to think, like, how many people were on board that, you know, how many people were involved in the creation of that, right? How many people were involved in sinking it eventually, right? It's just, again, like, seeing, like, actual physical objects, like remnants, it reminds you, like, I guess, just how real it all was, right? And again, 70 years past, like, we didn't live that time, right? But it just blows my mind.
Finally managed to sink
I don't know.
the unsinkable battleship.
This day is always commemorated as Tirpitz Day by 617 Squadron, but it could be remembered in a very different fashion. It could have been remembered as the day that 617 Squadron was annihilated. It's
Wow.
an enduring mystery. Why was it that they were able to get in?
They committed everyone to it, eh?
And get away with no losses. It could have gone very, very differently.
No losses at all.
70 years ago, the Tirpitz was the greatest single maritime threat to the Allies. At 35 miles an hour, it was faster than any British battleship.
That's insanely fast.
Its 8
For the
15-inch
size,
guns
crazy.
could fire 17 miles beyond the horizon. It could sink you before you even saw it. Its armor was so thick
Look at that flow plane,
conventional
man.
bombs
Wow.
bounced off it.
An impressive giant of a ship, Tirpitz was built to be as nearly unsinkable as a ship could be.
When Hitler launched the Tirpitz,
Something so interesting, sorry, about just seeing all this old footage, right? Especially, like, you can see, like, these ships in action, like, because, like, you see footage like this, and it almost doesn't look like to scale, right? Like, you think, oh, that doesn't look that big, but you gotta think, right? Like, that's a biplane. Like, the proportions here are just fucking insane. To see this thing move, to see this behemoth fucking in action, and I don't know, like, this old footage is always so cool to see for me, right? Like,
the conventional bomb
especially a lot of it I haven't seen, right? In regards to this.
An impressive giant of a ship, Tirpitz was built to be as nearly unsinkable as a ship could be.
When Hitler launched the Tirpitz on April the 1st, 1939, it was worldwide news. Teenager Tony Iverson was mesmerized by the flickering images.
I remember seeing in a cinema in
I can't imagine.
where I lived, seeing a newsreel of this battleship, this huge thing. I had no idea when I saw this with my girlfriend that one day I might be linked with Tirpitz.
Tony was part of a generation who...
Isn't that insane too, to be like one of the guys, like, you know, I think he, what do you say, he was in New York at the time there. I remember seeing cinema in New York, yeah, where I lived. Imagine, like, yeah, like you hear of this thing across the world being constructed, being launched finally, and then in a couple years you personally are going up to fucking sink this motherfucker. Like that must be just an insane like feeling, coincidence. I don't know like what you'd even call that, but that just must be an insane feeling.
No
dude.
idea when I saw this with my girlfriend that
like I'm personally involved with this, man.
Tony was part of a generation who grew up with the romance of flying.
Every young man in the world wanted to fly.
Oh, you were a rock star back then if you flew.
On a Saturday night when you'd come back to the local dance, when you hoped a girl would say, "And what have you been doing today?" You could say, "Oh, well, I've been dicing with death in the heavens."
Tony, now 94, flew Spitfires in the Battle.
94, wow.
He then joined the elite bomber force, the Dam Busters. In 1942,
I've heard of these guys.
The Dam Busters 617 Squadron had breached the Ruhr dams using inventor Barnes Wallis's bouncing bomb.
Yep.
The squadron became the RAF's experts in precision bombing.
Absolutely, and that's an insane story even.
A
It's
year
separate.
after the dam's raid, most of the squadron had moved on or had been killed in action. It was time for the next generation of the best young flyers.
I was at university and I decided that the Air Force really was for me. I made the big mistake of saying that 2 and 2 made 4. I should have said 5. Because I said 4, I became a navigator, and I wasn't very pleased at the time because I wanted to be a pilot.
I was a student and I was doing electrical engineering. I didn't want to go into the army, I didn't want to go into the Navy, and I thought the Air Force sounded pretty good, but I was always a bit worried about my eyes because they weren't really as good as they should be. So I just learned the lies that they were the bottom line or whatever it was, that they were big.
Oh, and this guy's a pilot? He's a pilot of 617. Oh, he's saying, "Oh yeah, my eyesight wasn't that good. I just lied about it." That's crazy, bro.
Being asked, and
holy
peel
shit!
that off and pass the eye test.
Wow, I feel that though. Relatable.
The new crews in their Lancaster bombers would be fighting in one of the most inhospitable environments of the war. After the German occupation of Norway, the Arctic Circle became one of the key battlegrounds of the conflict. In January 1942, Hitler ordered his biggest battleship north to threaten the Arctic convoys delivering essential supplies to the Russians. Churchill promised Stalin that he would maintain this lifeline. Without it, the Soviet war effort would collapse.
Wow.
In June 1942, the largest Arctic convoy of the war, 35 merchant ships, set sail escorted by 43 warships.
Insane to me to think like that's you know, that's how they were doing it, right? They're going Arctic, like so far north, dangerous shipping lane, and that's how they're doing it, you know. And I don't know, again, I'm not too certain on the geography, of course, of that location, but can't they only make port during certain seasons, right? Like I think during winter, aren't a lot of these ports like straight up just frozen over? You can't even get anything in there, right? If I'm not mistaken, of course. But what an insane feat, you know what I mean? Like that's what you're doing. 33 ships and
Without
escorts.
it, the Soviet war effort would collapse.
Insane.
In 1942, the largest Arctic convoy of the war, 35
merchant ships, my bad.
Escorted by 43 warships. They were only too well aware that the Tirpitz was poised
Like
to pounce.
90 some ships. That's
possibility
massive.
that it's going to put to sea is enough to create what can only be described, I think, as panic.
The rumor caused the Admiralty to issue a fatal order.
The convoy is to scatter. That means that the escort, this massive escort that they've gathered, is to return home, and that these merchantmen are basically on their own. This is an extraordinary decision, and of those ships that set out, only 11 actually make it to port. There's some, not by Tirpitz, but by German submarines and the Luftwaffe, who have a field day.
I was gonna say, that seems like a massive blunder. I mean, with escorts too. I mean, one battleship, again, while very, very imposing, don't get me wrong, definitely would outmatch any single ship here, right? Again, fleet combat, especially for the British at this time, it's not just one ship again. And I'm not sure if the British were operating with air assets at this time. Definitely coming up the Arctic corridor here in Norway, which I didn't know exactly where this convoy was going to be taking place, or where the setting of this was exactly going to be. Of course, they did have a lot of Luftwaffe in Norway, right, around that area. But I can't imagine scattering and leaving these the convoy unescorted. That seems like a massive blunder. The battleship isn't a threat to convoys, While it could be, more than likely that won't be the case, right? Like, I don't know.
Set out, only 11 actually make it to port.
That is insane losses.
But by German submarines and the Luftwaffe, who have a field day. So without firing a shot, Tirpitz had actually scored an enormous psychological victory against the Allies.
This
it's the fact that it's there. I can
I
understand the fear, but that's
furious response from Winston Churchill.
That's a blunder there.
This ship is the greatest event at sea at the present time. No other target is comparable to it.
This hindsight's a bitch, you don't know, right? But
with Royal Navy ships desperately needed in the Far East, the British threw everything at the Tirpitz, including dive bombers, manned torpedoes, and midget submarines.
Midget submarines? I didn't know that the British, I didn't know the British actually employed midget submarines like that. Holy shit, I might have to look up some more of that. That's crazy, bro. You want that job? Holy shit. I would never, man.
Submarines.
I don't know. Guess you wouldn't have a choice, but
in
damn.
2 years, 31 attempts failed to sink the Phantom Menace.
31 attempts.
So Churchill called in the dam busters to finally finish the job. They would have just 2 months to sink the unsinkable Tirpitz before the onset of the Arctic winter. If they failed, the British Navy in the North Atlantic would be tied up until the spring. The dam busters were to be joined by 9 Squadron, one of the most distinguished in the RAF.
We were called to a special briefing at Woodhall Spa, at our friend's base, where
We just see his wireless operator. Okay.
their wing commander flying, a man called Tate, took us into a briefing room which had been totally blacked out. So we knew that it was something special. And he was a fairly dramatic man. And he enjoyed having us all sit down and then suddenly drawing the cloth of a model in front of him, which was, of course, the Tirpitz. Gasp from everybody.
The Beast was hiding at the northern tip of Norway, well out of the range of a direct attack from Britain. So the RAF came up with a daring plan.
We were told to practice a lot of dinghy drill. Well, dinghy drill was the procedure for getting out of an aeroplane.
Yeah, water down.
If you had to land it in the sea.
Yeah.
They were going to attack the ship via the Soviet Union. On September the 11th, the 2 squadrons took off on an unprecedented 3,400-mile mission. They first flew the 1,100 miles to Russia. Then, after refueling, and at the very limit of a Lancaster's range, they flew on to bomb the Tirpitz. In their bomb bays, they were carrying the new
Lancasters
designed 12,000-pound tall boy.
Holy shit.
It was a revolutionary precision weapon. In the right hands, it flew like a dart.
12,000 pounder, man.
So it didn't tumble over like a bomb might. It was dropped and flew directly onto the point it was aimed at, I hope.
The tall boy was beautifully designed, if you can say that about a bomb. It had fins at the rear.
This big fucker.
So that when it fell, it went into a spin. That meant it was flying very accurately.
Ah.
The Raid would have such propaganda.
Yeah, the Lancasters, for what they were, just sick aircraft, right? And able to carry that type of payload, man, as a bomber, a 12,000-pound bomb in 42. Oh my God! Like that is crazy. That is an insane payload, man.
Very accurately.
I can't get over how destructive that might be, or what that would look like.
The film camera went along to record it.
Film crew.
After a 6-hour flight from Russia, the Lancasters approached the target.
I could see Tirpitz over the front of my Lancaster. And about
44,
the same time,
okay.
I saw all the smoke generators start up. And they had about 200 plus. So they filled the fjord very rapidly with smoke, because my bomb emmer said, "It's no good, Skip, I can't see anything." So we just had to go.
Most of the tall boys plunged harmlessly into the smoke screen. But having survived this attack, the Tirpitz was now forced to make a fatal move. In 1944, despite 5 years of conflict, the crew of the Tirpitz was largely immune to the hardships of the war. Historian Patrick Bishop has come to Tromsø's Tirpitz Museum, located in a former German bunker. He's exploring the daily routine on board with curator Leif Arneberg.
This is the wallet found by diver.
Yeah. Thank you, sorry.
And
oh, wow,
have
look at
a
that.
tobacco card.
So this
Wow.
is your weekly tobacco ration.
Yeah? Yeah. But under the card,
What do we got?
something different.
Ah, my gosh. I think
Oh.
we know what that is, don't we?
Oh,
Tobacco and condoms.
crazy.
Two staples of the seaman's equipment when they went ashore.
Oh yeah.
That is a cup for coffee from the ship, taken out by some of the workers who was cutting the ship after the war.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a nice bit of crockery, that, isn't it? It looks like they lived pretty well.
The ship had a
Wow.
crew of 2,400 men. It was so large, it ran its own bakery, cinema, and post office. It even produced its own newspaper.
Produced its own newspaper.
Karl-Heinz Kersling was 21 years old when he first stepped on board the 42,200-ton Tirpitz.
Wie dat daar uitziet, ik heb me erstmal verlaufen. Ik heb me verlaufen.
We were young and we were proud and,
Wow.
and the girls looked for our nice blue uniform, you understand?
Crazy again. And of course, in the modern day, right, when you have veterans from both sides, right? And again, a lot of these guys, you just sign, like, you didn't either have a choice or you signed up because back in the day you signed up. That's just what you did, right? If you were a guy, you know what I mean, a young man, you signed up and you served your country. Regardless, it's just so interesting to be able to go back and see like both sides, both perspectives, right? What it was like for the guys, obviously the Allies in the air trying to sink this thing, and then for the guys actually on board the ship, right? The survivors on board the ship, how that looked, what life was like for them on board the ship, and just how massive this battleship is. Again, you're talking thousands of people, right? I think, what, like 1,500 to 2,500 people? I'm not sure on the exact count, but its own newspaper, its own facilities, right? Everything that a small town would need, basically, at sea. It's just crazy to me.
For our nice blue
The logistics of that is insane.
German troops retreated on all fronts, and starving German civilians faced daily attacks on their cities, life on the Tirpitz remained largely unaffected.
We have had good food and clean rooms, clean wash. 3 days in the week we have meat, and in the evening we have sausage and such things, cheese.
Jeden Sonntag gab es Rotweinsuppe.
Every Sunday they served red wine soup with ice cream. Holy shit.
Weiß der Teufel, wo sie den Rotwein alle her hatten, ob sie Frankreich kriegten.
Don't know where they got the wine from.
Woher. Aber wenn du einen Teller von drin hattest, dann war schon leicht angesäuselt.
Oh, nice. Okay.
In October 1944, as Soviet forces advanced into Norway, the Tirpitz was moved 120 miles south to Tromsø.
Okay.
It was a fatal mistake. The ship was now almost within range of a direct attack. The news encouraged Churchill to pile on the pressure. I consider that every effort should be made to attack this ship, even if losses have to be incurred.
Really?
The RAF went into a frenzy of activity. If the Lancaster bombers were completely stripped of excess weight and filled with extra fuel, they might just reach their target.
Our engines were changed and armor was taken out. The one behind the pilot's seat was taken out. There, big piece of armor plating.
They had to reduce the weight.
Crazy.
So they took out the mid-upper turret in its entirety.
I don't need that.
Took the guns out of the front turret.
I don't need those either.
Reduced the amount of ammunition in the rear turret.
Losing weight increased range,
but by 44 again, I guess the consideration for that could be made while Luftwaffe forces are still probably somewhat active up there, not to the extent that they were earlier on in the war, of course. By 44, Battle of Britain has been lost, right? German air superiority would never really be a thing. However, these bombers, of course, are going way out of the range of their escorts and typically way out of the range of what they should be able to do here, right? So they're going to be well within enemy territory here.
In the rear turret.
So who knows?
Losing weight increased range.
Also, no armor plating. Scary.
To carry much more 100-octane aviation fuel to get them to Tromsø.
The extra fuel tanks was a Wellington tank of 200 gallons and a Mosquito tank of 50 gallons, one on top of the other.
Wow.
Placed inside the fuselage where the rest bed would have been.
And it was so dangerous.
No rest bed.
That ground crew had to wear plimsolls because of the danger of a spark if they wore their boots, and that would probably blow up the whole aircraft, at least one, perhaps several more around it as well.
Jesus.
I have to say that despite all the fuel joints being thoroughly tight and no sign of any leakage, you still could smell 100 octane. So it made you feel a little bit sick, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, the fumes inside that aircraft, everything is, sealed down, but yeah, and again, you literally know, like, inside the plane, inside the safe area of the aircraft, right, where normally you have armor, normally you're protected by, various guns on a bomber. No armor, and also you just have a shitload of extra fuel just packed in there with you. Oh no.
It
a little disconcerting.
Sick, I suppose.
On October the 29th, 1944, the refitted Lancasters of 617 and 9 squadrons took off on a 13-hour non-stop mission. To succeed, the undefended planes
very close to
take
war's
the
end.
By surprise.
Not very well, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, right?
Across the Norwegian coast, where they knew there was a gap in enemy radar, and they used neutral Sweden to disguise their approach. Everything was in place to finally send the Tirpitz to the bottom of the sea. But the one thing not in their control was the weather. Just 30 seconds before bombing commenced, Tirpitz was covered by a blanket of low cloud.
But most people didn't bomb because they couldn't see the Tirpitz.
Let them go.
All that preparation and all that hard work and all that flying, and to arrive together at the right time over the right point, and then to be wasted is, I won't say disheartening, because we weren't disheartened, we were annoyed perhaps.
Now you gotta go out there and do it again.
But after the failure of this raid, there was to be no let-up. The crews were ordered back again. There was no time to plan a new route, and there was one more shock in store for them.
They said, sorry to tell you chaps, but since the last trip, the Germans have moved 2 squadrons of fighters
oh joy!
to be near the Tirpitz at Bardufoss in Norway. Well, this made us swallow a little bit.
We were a little apprehensive.
Isn't that, yeah. Now they're concerned. They just did this massive bombing raid. They definitely saw the planes up there, or at least heard them, and then they're like, oh fuck. You know what I mean? Send whatever reserve aircraft we have up there, because clearly this is the Allies' game. But no time to alter the plan, no nothing like that. So, oh, wow. Yeah, and it seems like, I don't know if they had air assets stationed up there prior, but again, once they know this is what they're trying to do, right, they'll try to react. So let's see what happens.
A little bit.
We were a little apprehensive because, of course, we hadn't got the mid-upper turret.
Yeah.
Like good little boys, we all went off.
But new evidence has emerged that suggests the Dambusters and 9 Squadron were in even greater danger than they ever imagined.
Really?
In November 1944, the RAF was preparing to attack the battleship Tirpitz for the 3rd time in 2 months. The British were still hoping to take the Nazis by surprise, even though they'd be flying the same route. But new evidence suggests the Germans may have been expecting them. On the Norwegian island of Andøya, historian Patrick Bishop is investigating a story that the Germans repositioned some of their radar before the 3rd raid. Patrick has come to the site of a Wassermann radar installation, the most powerful German radar of the conflict. He's with local resident John Ronald Norheim, who has brought along a photograph his father took at the end of the war.
Hitler had this obsession with the idea that they were the Allies, even though they were sure Normandy landings had gone ahead, he still clung to this belief that there'd be an Allied landing in Norway as well.
That was I was told that this radar was picking up all the ship traffic going towards Russia.
Now, if we look at this picture here, we've got this landmark, which is this very prominent rocky island just behind us, and you can see that in the bottom right-hand corner of the picture. This box structure that's on the back of the scaffolding, if you like, is actually the rear of the radar set. So that would mean that the thing is actually the Wassermann.
Crazy to think, right here, there was a massive radar installation at one point.
This is very interesting because it was possible for the Wassermann radar to actually pick up the raid as it came in, as it homed in on Tromsø to bomb the Tirpitz.
With the radar
that makes sense
to track the flyers coming from inland, all it needed was one phone call to the fighter squadron at Bardufoss. In just 13 minutes, the fighters would be swarming around the Tirpitz, ready to shoot the Lancasters out of the sky.
Look at that radar installation. That is smart radar installation. Again, you can see the range, limited range again for the 40s, right? But very, very smart location, right where they'd have to fly over. And again, also ship traffic and whatnot. Damn.
One of those crack fighter pilots at Bardufoss now lives halfway around the world in Southern California.
Denny's! Really?
Kurt Schultz, age 92, meets with a group of veteran flyers every week. 70 years ago, he wouldn't have hesitated to shoot them down.
It's a friendship that has developed, and I'm so grateful for that because I was the enemy.
Wow.
Kurt started the
That's
war
crazy.
as a navigator on bombing raids over England. but later he became a fighter pilot. He was posted to a squadron of fighter aces based deep inside the Arctic Circle. He wasn't.
That's very cool that even, like, again, like a German veteran of the Second World War in America, right, is still like welcomed into these associations and these veterans associations, right? He might have been on opposite sides, but shit, I mean, that was a long time ago. And also, again, a lot of these guys, they would have been best friends even back then, right? Had they known each other, had politics been different, had shit not happened the way it had happened, right? These guys would have just probably gotten along, right? You know what I mean? Like most people do, with all that bullshit removed, right? So it's just, you know, it's great that he was welcomed here. You know what I mean?
Squadron of fighter aces based deep inside the Arctic Circle. He wasn't prepared for their relaxed attitude to discipline.
The fact that he was involved in this too.
I arrived just a few days after they had tried to kill Hitler. And you know, the salute was like that. All of a sudden, they all walked in. And instead of greeting like that, they greeted like that. And you know, I thought, gee, Kurt, what happened to you? So, but it was a very loose bunch as far as real discipline was concerned, but they were very, very successful.
Kurt flew 63 missions and had 3 confirmed kills.
So even that goes to show, right? They weren't doing the salute properly. They didn't take it as seriously. Now, again, that could be discipline, or again, that could be personal protest, right? To an extent, right? Again, they need you at this point. If you're a pilot or you're a squadron for Germany at this point in time, they're not going to dismiss you. I mean, shit, they need you. So you can throw your weight around a touch, you know what I mean, at the same time. Interesting. Very, very interesting dynamic here. That's for sure.
Kurt flew 63 missions and had 3 confirmed kills.
Wow.
Some of his colleagues at Bardufoss were among the highest scoring aces of the war.
Major Erler, he had 199 victories.
Oh.
And I think Captain Durr, who was a group commander, had maybe 160.
Wow.
Jockel North had around 100. These 3 together had 600 victories almost.
That's just insane. 600 area victories for 3 of them.
In the early hours of November the 12th, from the frozen coastline of northern Scotland, the fighters at Bardufoss were preying on their minds. This would be their last chance to sink the Tirpitz before the onset of the Arctic winter.
It was cold, but when you're 20, 21, you know, you don't feel the cold the same, but it was cold.
If we wanted to have a pea, some kind waff in the mess at Lockheed provided milk bottles, and of course there was this odd joke about those.
Milk bottles.
Looking back,
oh no,
pitched us into it, as it were. There's the target. You've got the weapon. Go and do it.
They really did, yeah.
At the time, we just got on and did it. That was our job.
It was a long, long journey. There was no radio contact, of course. The only way we could navigate, I could navigate anyhow, was take the odd shot of whichever star was appropriate and just keep my fingers crossed.
Wow.
At 7 a.m., the bombers turned east.
Out of radio communication again. It was such a risky missions the British undertook here, right? And either luck or someone looking out for them or something, right? But somehow they kept getting away with it. They kept doing it, you know. I'm gonna be interested to see if the Luftwaffe there actually ended up going up at them, or if maybe for one reason or another it just didn't happen.
At 7 a.m., the bombers turned east through what they still believed was a radar gap. But German records show they had already been spotted.
Wow.
Defenseless, laden with fuel, and with 2.5 tons of high explosives inside their tallboy bombs, they were extremely vulnerable.
We had found we were flying into a gin-clear sky, which was perfect for our job, absolutely. But then a little thought came, well, it'll suit the fighters pretty well too.
Yeah. No doubt.
At 7:40,
What a beautiful
the
plane,
Lancasters
man.
began their run into the target from neutral Sweden. The Tirpitz was already receiving information of confused sightings, some placing bombers on a course to Russia, others placing them 100 kilometers to the north. No one alerted the Bardufoss airbase.
Really?
Then at 8:09, the Tirpitz on its own radar spotted the bomber force just 30 minutes away, and it was coming straight at them.
That's crazy. No one alerted the Luftwaffe.
Sounded at the Bardufoss fighter base at 8:18. This was more than an hour after the raiders had first been spotted.
Wow. What a
6
blunder.
minutes later, the Lancasters passed a few miles to the east of Bardufoss on their way north.
My thought was, hope to Christ the fighters don't get near us. If I got a 109 up my backside, and there would be very little left when he'd finished with us, with his cannon.
At 8:30, Kurt Schultz arrived at his Messerschmitt 109 fighter. Had he taken off then, he could still have caught the Lancasters. But Kurt and his colleagues lost vital minutes getting off the ground. For a start, the planes were at the wrong end of the runway. And then at the moment they were ready to take off, air traffic control allowed a transport plane to land.
Crazy.
So they let this U-52 that was coming fly in and land down the hill. And so there was another 5 minutes lost.
Wow. So blunder on not alerting the airbase right away. And then just ground crews kind of blunder not having aircraft ready for takeoff, right? Or I guess they were on standby, but not immediate takeoff kind of thing. And then air traffic screwed them by allowing just like incoming traffic. Like, bro, we got to get to somewhere. Like, we got bombers coming in here. Well, we need to scramble now. Like, we're already lost on the clock here. So they really, and again, by time, like, those bombers are already at altitude, they're already up to speed. Yeah, they're gone.
Just
There's no way.
8:30 a.m., the Lancasters began their approach to the Tirpitz. RAF cameras were again on hand to film it all.
Wow. We're going to see some of that footage.
Still no sign of Kurt and his fighters.
It was a Sunday, yes. I was standing...
This guy's an AA gunner? There's an AA gunner on the Tirpitz. Holy shit, okay.
On the deck. Then came the alarm. And we saw the machine in south.
As the Lancasters approached, they were confronted by the first of Tirpitz's formidable weaponry. The ship trained its massive 15-inch guns onto the raiders. Each shell weighed more than a ton.
The Tirpitz guns had a range of 17 miles. Even the big heavy guns could be elevated to reach aircraft.
Wow.
It was a great unfolding orange cloud. This 15-inch shell went off, would have probably taken 2 Lancasters out of the sky together.
You could actually see these shells coming up. They seemed to come up so slowly. It was a fascinating sight. You'd never see anything like it again.
Within a minute, the rest of Tirpitz's defenses opened up on the advancing bombers.
My combat station was the anti-air gun.
You have to take your hat off to the German gunners. They'd got the altitude absolutely cock on. I mean, we were 15,100 feet, and the flak was bursting exactly at that level. But we were fortunate that they were a little bit early. The flak was in front of us by a matter of a few yards.
Wow.
The fuel in a 200-gallon tank is used up. That's when it becomes dangerous, because should a bit of flak get through, it's going to hit sort of vaporized fuel.
How do you feel? I must admit, you're a bit excited and think, Christ, I hope they don't hit us.
Yeah.
Get that aeroplane positioned so the bomb went down to hit this target, which from 15,000 feet must have looked to my bomb hammer like a dinky toy, even though it was 900 feet long.
Yeah, no doubt. Wow.
The first tall boy was released at 8:41. It scored a direct hit.
Wow.
The next
crazy
recorded another direct hit, 3 near misses, and a stray.
Yeah, you could see it go down like a dart almost, because it was painted bright green.
First one was a direct hit, eh? Wow.
It looked quite nice, actually, diving down there.
It went through the speed of sound. So what these poor sailors felt when one or two of them landed.
When the machine are coming against you, you cannot get air enough. It's so as one pressed your air.
After the first wave of 6 bombers, Tony Iverson was in the second wave of 3. He attacked at 8:42.
I bombed at number 7 or number 8, and I think I had a near miss or a not so near miss. I'm not sure. I can't go further than that.
This second wave scored 2 very near misses. The bombs were beginning to overwhelm the ship.
Yeah, wow.
The first
how close those were.
Ships. It led to one of the magazines blowing up. Bomb 4 had hit close to a turret and blew it into the air. Bombs 5, 7, 9, and 14 had landed close by. These also had a devastating effect, producing shockwaves that buckled the ship's frame and caused it to start to capsize.
Brutal.
The first 9 aircraft bombed in 1.5 minutes. That's 90 seconds. You can count 90 seconds. Just think of 9 5-ton bombs coming down at you.
9 Squadron followed up, dropping their tall boys into the smoke. As they exploded, few were certain of the outcome.
There was smoke up at the one end. I suppose it would have been the pointed bend, I think.
But the rear gunner was quite convinced. Bloody thing's going over, Skip.
The rear gunner was quite convinced.
The Lancasters turned away.
Yeah, that'd be quite the view. Holy.
The danger wasn't over yet.
We realised we hadn't seen any fighters, which is amazing luck.
They were luckier than they could have imagined. The first German fighters were less than 3 minutes away as the last bomb was dropped.
It took me approximately 10 minutes to get to Tromsø from Bardufoss. And when I arrived there, the Tirpitz was already turning over. So
Christ.
I turned around and flew back. There was nothing I could do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what do you do? What do you do? That must be a sight. You know what I mean? You just turn around. But you can see down there, like, your boys just got shattered. Like, how many sailors in the water? What's going on? You're a different branch. You're not even technically. You're not there, right? Like, you are, but you're not. What can you do? That must be a crazy sight, man.
So I turned around and flew back. There was nothing I could do.
You can't chase them. You can't.
Bert had only just missed the defenseless Lancasters. All the crews returned home safely. Was it luck, or were there other forces at work?
12th of November, 1944. Tirpitz. It's, wow.
The sinking
small
of the
monument there.
Tirpitz, after 33 failed attempts, was a remarkable feat of navigation, flying, and precision bombing. But it had a terrible human cost. 1,700 sailors were on board as the ship began to capsize.
1,700 sailors. Okay, so yeah, I wasn't exactly sure on the number of hands on board there, but yeah, there's a number, 1,700. I knew it was between 15 to 25. That's just like battleship estimates of different nations during those times, but Wow, 1,700 people on board. That's brutal. And to be one of the fellow, they're interviewing one of the fellas that was on board there. That's just, wow.
I saw not the explosion from the hit on the ship, but I feel the quake. You are feeling that the ship make a jump from a half meter. And in the next moment,
A ship that size jumping half a meter.
began to capsize. It goes so and so, and at last we hanging in the railing here. And I go a moment later into the water, yes. And then I swim to the coastline. And the water was oil. And many of the swimmers have their face in the water. They were died. And
It must be awful to see.
look, I see it. It was crazy. It looks as when footballs were swimming in the water. A crazy sight.
Yeah, the human mind can't
was below decks when the
imagine that, you know, unless you're there.
Plötzlich auf der Decke, die Decke war 135 Grad gedreht, das Schiff. Und da standen wir auf der Decke, das war ein komisches Gefühl. Ne?
We're standing on the ceiling.
Sofort die Notbeleuchtung ein, die für solche Gelegenheiten gebraucht wurde, ging automatisch ein, aber hatte nur eine begrenzte Leuchtdauer, 4 Stunden.
Just trapped in there as it's capsized. That's insane.
21-year-old Karl-Heinz Kersling was lucky enough to be on shore at the time of the attack. He rushed to the rescue of the hundreds of sailors trapped inside the hull.
Wir sind dann hochgeklettert und unter Anleitung Kapitän und Sommer. Und dann haben wir Farbe und Pinsel gehabt und haben die Stellen, wo geklopft wurde, angezeichnet, damit wir wussten, da sind welche drin. Aber mit unseren Brennern konnten wir kaum was ausrichten. Das waren handelsübliche Handwerkerbrenner. Aber wie denn die Neumark kam, die haben ja die großen Brenngeräte gehabt, dann war das los. Dann ging das los.
They couldn't do anything right away. Yeah, with basic equipment, you're not cutting through the hull of a battleship like that. Yeah, nothing they could do. They just marked it out where they think people are trapped, right? And that's all you really can do. I mean, shit. And look at this thing overturned. Like, this is just a crazy sight.
As the tide rose, the compartments began to fill with water.
Ugh.
The rescuers could hear their entombed comrades singing Deutschland über alles until the voices fell silent.
10 Stunden. Und gerettet hat uns der Kapitän Sommer.
Lieutenant Summer.
Der hat uns herausgezogen. Wir haben geklopft von innen, an die Bordwand geklopft.
Vor allen Dingen haben wir mit einem gesprochen, Sigi Stracke. Die waren mit 20 Mann da drin. Und der sagt, holt uns hier raus, wir sind am Absaufen. Und wie die Flut an den Höchststand erreicht war, waren die weg. Waren sie tot.
That's awful. Being able to hear people in there and you can't get them out. That's
971 sailors
it's terrible.
lost their lives, but the beast had been slain.
I mean, looking back, it's quite remarkable that the raiders managed to get away with it. When you think about it,
without a loss.
Defenders who've actually got the odds stacked in their favour. You've got the squadron of crack fighters based nearby, apparently with the specific job of looking after the Tirpitz. You've got the radar systems apparently pointing inwards. Yet there we are at the end of that morning. The Tirpitz is sunk, and the attackers have got away with it virtually scot-free. Now, maybe it was just sheer good luck, But I've often thought that perhaps there's another explanation for what happened.
What could the explanation be here?
On the island of Vandoya, Patrick is following a new lead that might explain why the German fighters weren't scrambled in time. He's meeting local resident, journalist Sander Pettersson. As a 17-year-old boy, schoolboy Sander worked in the Vandoya radar base for a German officer, Lieutenant Karl Heinrich Wessner. Wessner was a key link in the radar communication network on the island. Pettersson thinks Wessner could have delayed vital information to the fighter squadron at Bardufoss.
We understand that Wessner had sympathy for England.
Really?
How did he let you know that he was in sympathy with Germany's enemies?
He speaks very good Norwegian. He said to us in Norwegian, boys, he showed us a silver etui.
That's like a cigarette case or
Yeah,
something
nice,
like that.
very nice. Or inside the Union Jack.
The Union Jack was inside the
lid
of the...
Wow.
Wessner was in the right place at the right time.
So a German fella sympathetic to the Allied cause in, I guess, like late 44 here, potentially could have delayed reports, which would have absolutely turned the tide here, but he just delayed reports. Essentially, that's the idea here. Now, maybe, again, maybe this is speculation, maybe there's more concrete proof here, but this fella, this older Norwegian fella here, he definitely seems to think so, and the German fella speak good Norwegian. Why would he be carrying around a Union Jack, like a cigarette case kind of thing? Weird.
Wessner was in the right place at the right time, but was he responsible for delaying vital information about the raid?
I think Wessner has a finger to stop sending up Germany plane to take the Lancaster.
Yes. You may be right in that Wessner, as you say, had a hand in the affair.
Yes, no doubt. No doubt.
This guy seems very sure about it.
To support Sander Pettersson's story, Patrick has been looking for more evidence. He's uncovered a letter in the Norwegian archives written by Wessner just after the war.
This really confirms this man's anti-Nazi credentials. Now, according to him, he actually was actively working against his own people as early as 1944. It's not just him. He's got at least 3 other colleagues who were in this conspiracy, if you like, with him. The Germans had a sabotage plan which they were going to put in place if there was indeed an Allied landing. And they've got quite an elaborate plan here for shooting their own officers and running up the white flag. He goes over to the underground, the Norwegian resistance, and they smuggle him out. Now, if his credentials weren't pucker, I can't imagine they would do that willingly. So he does actually match up to the description that we're given of him by Sander.
That's crazy. And again, by 44, right? Again, like they talked about it earlier, right? There was already a plot on Hitler's life there, right? I've heard a bit about that operation, what took place. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but there was a few attempts, I think, on his life there, on Hitler's life. But yeah, there was I don't want to say the word because I'll get demonetized, but anti-sentiment, right? Throughout Germany at that time, and throughout the Wehrmacht, I guess clearly the Luftwaffe, and probably also the Navy, right? I mean, by 44, again, if you'd spend any time in combat, or even if you saw the effect on your civilian population at that point, a lot of these guys knew better. Like, they knew the writing on the wall. Like, this is a lie, right? Especially if you're a higher educated German. Maybe you were educated outside of Germany, right? And I'm sure this guy probably was, seeing as how he spoke Norwegian and whatnot, right? And again, was sympathetic to England, had a Union Jack cigarette case. Like, a lot of these guys knew it was bullshit, but again, it was your country, right, at the time. So if you lived in country, you were probably drafted, probably forced to, or again, you served your country because it was the right thing to do. You largely had to, right? I mean, it wasn't, a lot of guys, even if they believed the propaganda or didn't, right? Either way, it's like you weren't a man if you didn't do that kind of thing. That's how it was seen back in those days. I don't know.
That we're given of him by Sander.
Crazy to say, but it's true. Not saying that was right, but
opens the prospect of an intriguing new theory that a good German did intervene in a major operation of war on the side of the Allies and had a material effect on the outcome.
On hearing the news that the beast had finally been slain, Churchill wrote to Stalin, "RAF bombers have sunk the Tirpitz. Let us rejoice together." For the young airmen of 9 and 617 squadrons, there was relief that they had finally finished the job.
No doubt.
We really didn't know we'd sunk it until we got back to near base and they wired us. They sent out a signal to say it had been destroyed.
Yeah, we felt marvellous, really. Yeah, I mean, it was called Churchill's Beast, wasn't it? And I know we said to ourselves, well, we've sunk the beast at last.
It's quite an interesting experience to talk to you.
So quite the way to put it.
That happened very nearly 70 years ago. And I'm just getting little flashes of memories. I'm getting a little flash of memory about the mess. Beer flowing freely, wing commander in the
Oh, yeah. Oh, brother, I imagine the mess party that night must have been fucking insane. Oh my god, dude. Oh, that must have been a night, dude. Straight up. They'd be going until the next morning, I think would be the case of that right there. Wow. Yeah, no, that'd be, if any time to celebrate, that would be it right there. Holy shit. Nobody can even, I don't even think anyone would be saying anything to you.
Wing commander in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Drunk as a newt.
Yeah.
And a great deal of laughter and shouting and chattering. Yes, absolute celebration. We've been 3 times for the damn thing. We were beginning to think that it really was unsinkable.
Wow.
Frank Tilley and Basil Fish celebrated their weekend leave with a trip to the London Palladium to see comedian Tommy Trinder.
I remember Tommy Trinder making a joke about the Tirpitz, and so we sat there feeling quite pleased with ourselves, old Basil and I.
70 years ago,
insane.
Kurt Schultz nearly shot down Tony Iverson in the skies of northern Norway. Today, the former enemies are firm friends.
Really? Wow.
Hello.
Good morning, Tony.
Hello.
I'm so glad I can talk with you again just 1 week after your 94th birthday.
I liked Kurt. We got to know each other quite well, and we have seen each other on my trips through California.
Tony was not too enthused about meeting a damn German.
Pilot. Wary of each other.
Kurt over here was just like, yeah, we meet up, we make friends, right? Then you obviously, a lot of the Allied guys, right, after the war, right, they were none too trustful of the Germans, right? But as time goes on, right, those wounds healed, right, kind of thing. But I definitely think it was, more of the Allies that had a mistrust of the Germans more so than the Germans were just, a lot of them just glad to be done with the war, man. You know what I mean? They've been fighting for years, you know, and the Eastern Front was extremely rough. The Western Front, of course, was extremely rough, but the Eastern Front, none more so, right? They faced the annihilation of their country, right? Especially if you were a younger guy, like if you were an 18-year-old German fella and, you know, you got drafted in 44 or early 45, like, that's awful, you know what I mean? Or again, like, Hitlerjugend, you know what I mean? That type of thing, right? Like it's, or Hitler Youth, I should say. Like it's, you know, it's awful stuff, right? A lot of these younger fellas, they just want to be done with the war, right?
German pilot.
We were a bit wary of each other for quite a while. But then, well, we had a drink and things loosened up.
It was a cool reception, but we started talking and we became friends. We never talked about the war. We talked about all kinds of other things that were interesting to us. Talk with you again soon, Tony.
Right.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
There we are.
He sounds not too strong. It's a situation where we as human beings finally come through after the politicians did with us whatever they wanted to do.
That's exactly it.
Yes, sir.
70 years on, the raid that finally sank the Tirpitz is still considered one of the outstanding achievements of aerial warfare.
I think it was very well planned, very well executed. And to throw those big bombs in this close circle around and on the ship was an accomplishment.
Especially from that altitude. Back in those days.
But so 1,000 Germans died, so that's something we have to consider too. Crazy war.
Yeah.
For nothing. 8 years of my life. That gets us to me now. It was pretty tough once, but now it's all gone.
It's rather like the words at the ceremony, at the cenotaph, isn't it? You know, they shall not grow old. It's sticks in your throat a bit. I think all war is dreadful. I do really. I mean, but if it came again, we'd have to do the same again. You couldn't have the Nazis in charge, could you? No way.
(1919 to 2013). Wow. Wow. That was an insane story, guys. Holy shit. And again, just to see at the end there, right? These guys, right? And even the German fella, right? Again, because after the war, right? Again, a lot of them just wanted to be done with it. If you were a higher educated German and you knew it was propaganda, right? But again, you don't say no. You can't say no, right? You're a traitor. Your family are now viewed as traitors also, right? You know, it's so unfortunate what had to happen there, right? But again, a lot of them recognized, right, by war's end, it's absolutely stupid, you know, a waste of time, right? Complete waste of time. And it's so much death in World War II, and what it really, at the end of the day, amount to, right? You know, it amounted to absolutely nothing, unfortunately, right? Crazy story there, how that ship went down, just how many people were involved with it, how many people they were able to interview from both sides here, the survivors that from both sides that are still with us, right? And I guess we're still with us. Again, this video here was uploaded nine years ago, right? So I don't imagine, unfortunately, most of those fellas are with us still today. But either way, to watch something like this and to actually get a grip for or a grasp of you know, just all what was involved, right? The amount of planning that had to go into it, the amount of steps that had to take, potentially a German sympathetic to the cause that maybe even allowed all this to happen to begin with, right? In a way, right? That's just mind-blowing to me. I thought this was a great documentary. Again, really love these Timeline documentaries. If you guys enjoyed the reaction, as always, do hit that like button, subscribe for more content from me, leave your recommendations down in the comments below. Big thank you, of course, to all of our members. Join the Discord if you're not already in it. And without any further delay, this has been Centurion, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, guys.